everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Dual Destinies! Last time we left off, Prosecutor Blackwell decided to join the scene and try to play a superhero because, well, Edgeworth is... let's just say the verdict was about to condemn Athena as the culprit of murdering her mom. So, yeah, obviously Blackwell doesn't like that, but he's just piling lies on top of lies right now. So we have to be the ones to try and decipher all of his lies. Right now we're, examining his testimony to figure out where his contradictions are, which is coming up right here. Ponko attacked me. I retaliated by cutting it into pieces. Well, that's kind of odd. Let's look at the photo of the crime and present that.
Objection!
Compounding lies with more lies is never the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. Take a look at this photo. That's the photo of the supposed moment of the murder, isn't it? How many more times must I see that which damned me for my sin? You seem too happy about that. The ironic thing is, I think this picture is actually going to be your savior now. See the bloodstain at the end of Ponko's arm where it was severed with the katana? I hope you aren't claiming it's the robot's blood, Mr. Wright. No, most likely the blood was transferred there from the bloody katana. The katana already had blood on it, so then it must have been the victim's blood. That's right, but if that's the case, we found a glaring inconsistency. You said in your testimony that you cut up Ponko, and then you killed Dr. Sykes. But in spite of that, the victim's blood is already on Ponko's arms in this picture. What? But that couldn't be! Exactly. In order for the blood to have transferred from the sword to Ponko's arm, the victim must have been stabbed first before the robot was slashed. In other words, Prosecutor Blackwell, your entire testimony is nothing but a giant ball of lies! Gah! Tell the court the truth, Prosecutor Blackwell, now! You had no idea what you're doing.
His voice. There's so much discord. I'm hearing not just one or two, but a bunch of rampaging emotions here. It's hard to describe. It's like a violent whirlpool or something.
Phoenix Wright, you will pay for this. Never have I been forced to reveal so much, but the rest I'll take to my grave. Prosecutor Blackwell, you are on the witness stand. You are obligated to tell the truth. Isn't that the rule of the courtroom?
All of these complex emotions, they seem to be flowing from one source. I think whatever he really saw that day is what's causing those feelings.
Oh dear Lord! Following the sound of crying, I opened the lab door, and then... I saw it, that terrible scene. But before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. I had no choice but to kill my mentor. Alright, so, we're going to come back over here, and probe, and we're going to pick Athena.
Got it!
When you opened the door and saw Athena, you became overwhelmed by your emotions. Isn't that right, Prosecutor? You should know better. And though it's pathetic, I admit I'm terrified to speak of it. Prosecutor Blackwell, Miss Sykes is innocent. I will always believe that with all my heart. Now, can't you find it within yourself to believe in me too? Athena is innocent, huh? Can you honestly say you believe that to be true, right, Dono? I give you my word. Now tell me what you really saw when you opened that door. Curse you, Phoenix Wright! The truth will always come out. It was a tragedy, one I'll never forget. When I arrived at the lab, Dr. Sykes was already dead. She was lying on the operating table while the bloody katana laid on the floor. And standing between the two, covered in blood, was Athena. She smiled, the far-off look in her eyes, as she sweetly said, That's really fucking terrifying. Ugh.
Something's wrong with Mom. So I'm...
Blah, fuck! I messed that up! So I'm going to fix her up or something.
Something's wrong with Mom, so I'm taking her apart to fix her.
Ooh! This is the only reason the game is rated M, by the way. That's what I saw. And now you have it. The truth that you so desperately wanted. No. Prosecutor Blackwell finally tells the truth. And this is what it is? It's beyond devastating. I tried to take my mother apart?
No!
That is a lot no! But I don't want to break people's eardrums. Go, man.
So it was me. I'm the one who killed my mother.
Athena! As I said, Wright, the truth isn't always pretty. Murder, disassembly on an operating table, a scientist using her daughter as a guinea pig. Sadly, it appears that my theory was correct after all.
Objection!
It's true that Athena didn't like her mother's research, but you dare cast aspersions on my mentor by claiming Athena was used in such a manner. Dr. Seiss could be awkward with people, but she loved her daughter with all her heart.
She loved me?
Your mother hated to see you suffer because you could hear the voices of people's hearts. She wanted to set you free of your pain, so she worked tirelessly on her research. Do you remember those headphones you hated so much?
Yes. My head hurt every time I wore them.
No, Athena. It's just the opposite. They emitted sound waves to nullify emotional input from the voices of people around you. Your power was much stronger then than it is now. And those headphones were what enabled you to carry on with everyday life.
No, that can't be true. Then why would I have done something like that to somebody who loved me so much?
Her love for you was real. That I can guarantee. That's why I knew that what happened had to be some kind of mistake. I couldn't let you be punished for it. So you took the blame yourself. You and your mentor are more alike than you know. Ponko was a witness, so I put it in the case, held Athena close, and vacated the lab. I threw Ponko away in the boarding lounge trash chute, and I hid the case on the Space Center grounds. It would seem that we have all the facts of this case.
Hold it!
No! Not yet! It can't end like this!
Objection!
Wow, I can't talk today either. Do not disgrace yourself, Mr. Wright. The truth has been revealed. Or are you the type of man to turn your back to things that disagree with you? I'm not, but this... I can't give up now. I have to say something. Anything. Even if it's a bluff. I have always managed to pull through that way in the past. I have to make it work. The defense is, prepared to present evidence.
Mr. Wright.
Yes, Athena?
It's okay. You can stop now. I don't want you or anyone else to suffer any longer for my sake.
Athena, what are you saying?
I killed my mother. That's the truth. It's just like Prosecutor Edgeworth said, we have to face it, no matter how much it hurts. I admit my guilt. But could I please be granted just one chance to tell everyone what I recall?
It appears Miss Sykes is much braver than you, Mr. Wright. What say you, Your Honor? In light of her courage, will the court give Miss Sykes this opportunity to confess? Very well, then if you would, please take the stand, Miss Sykes. That was some heavy shit. It's not over, man, it's not over.
Thank you for letting me do this, Prosecutor Edgeworth. And thank you, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Blackquill, for letting the truth be known.
Oh, not this song.
Now we can finally move forward, and everyone's suffering can come to an end.
Athena! Prosecutor Blackquill will be cleared and the Dark Age of the Law can come to an end. Yes, admit your guilt and bring everything to its conclusion.
I killed my mother. My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feel of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers.
That's really descriptive.
Your Honor, please find me guilty.
I dare say these are all memories that no one but the murderer would have. I see. Thank you for your confession. I believe this trial has gone on long enough. But before we conclude, does anyone have a counter-argument?
Objection!
Of course, Venus Wright's like, nope! I do, Your Honor. Mr. Wright!
But, Mr. Wright, why? I killed her. I remember it now. Any counter-argument now is pointless.
Objection!
No, I'm Phoenix Wright and I turn things around. Don't tell me you've forgotten one of the basic tenets of lawyering. Always believe in the client to the bitter end. Athena, you are not a murderer.
Objection!
I said that you never changed, but could you have actually regressed in these 8 years? I won't stand for your childish emotionalism getting in the way of the truth. Emotionalism? Don't lecture me on the matters of the heart, Edgeworth. Burn! Because I can see straight into a person's soul.
I did a little research. I looked into those special cyclocks you mentioned, Mr. Nick. Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and her memories are sealed off, even from herself.
There's still a chance, somewhere deep in Athena's heart. There might still be a memory that not even she knows about yet. It might be like looking for a grain of sand somewhere in the cosmos. But still, that memory might contain a new fact that could prove her innocence. I hope for everyone's sake that you are not just bluffing, Mr. Wright. Now then, is there not a problem with Miss Sykes' confession?
My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers.
That's the statement right there. That's where it is. There's definitely something wrong with her memory of the event. I can just tell. If there's a problem with her confession, please prove it to the court now. Look at the katana. There's no blood up on the handle.
Take that!
Is that the katana the defendant used to kill the victim, Mr. Wright? I respectfully and vehemently disagree, Your Honor.
But I remember it! I remember holding the weapon and getting blood on my fingers!
That's exactly my point. If blood really did get on your fingers while you were holding it, there should be blood on the handle. But please focus on the handle of this sword. There's not a trace of blood on it. And therefore, this is clearly a contradiction of the facts.
You're right.
Oh my! Rubber.
Objection!
The defendant must have simply confessed a portion of her memories. She mentioned it was hazy to begin with, and we can't mull over every minor detail.
Objection!
But she also said there's no question I remember it. A fact we can't ignore. In that case, why don't you explain what this contradiction with her memory means? Gladly! Just give me a sec to think of something. I want to say that Athena didn't stab anyone. But she said it herself that she remembers the feeling of committing the act. Think, Phoenix, think! What could the contradiction with Athena's memory mean? The defendant used a different weapon. Ms. Sykes said blood flowed down the handle, but the katana's handle is spotless. So, doesn't it follow that the defendant must have used a weapon other than the katana? What are you up to this time? Oops, excuse me, I thought that was the judge. This is it. This time, I found just the thing to end Athena's nightmare for good. The weapon that took Dr. Sykes' life was the katana, that much is for sure. So if I can show a possibility that Athena didn't use the katana, it could help me prove her innocent. A different weapon, you say? What weapon would that be, exactly? Right, of course you would ask that. I can see you're floundering, Mr. Wright. Did you speak without thinking again, as always? How does he do that? But I can't back down. Not here. Not now. That's right, I did. Because it's so obvious it doesn't require any thought. What a bounce back! What did you say? Okay, so maybe that was an exaggeration, but there has to be something. Was there some other blade in the robotics lab that day? Maybe there's something in one of the crime photos. Wait a minute! There is something! There's a high probability that that was in the lab! I don't have that particular weapon here in evidence right now, but I do have a piece of evidence just like it. Other than the katana, this is another blade that may have been at the crime scene. Present the utility knife.
Take that!
But that's the murdering weapon in the Clay Terran case! Cries. Yes, this is the knife that took Mr. Terran's life. But, really quick, sorry. You know what I like about this game, though? Whee! But there must have been a knife just like this at the scene 7 years ago as well. Toolkits containing utility knives like this one are issued to Space Center employees. And a robotics lab, especially, would naturally have one of these around.
Objection!
But, besides the katana, no other bladed weapon was found at the scene, or the site. It was in the investigation report, if you didn't know.
Objection!
Of course I knew that! Once you told me just now. Then here's something else you already knew. There was a toolkit at the scene, but it didn't contain any blades. Here is a photo of its contents. You're right, I don't see any kind of bladed tool. Fine, but isn't there something odd about the design of these handles? Therefore, there was no other bladed weapon in the room. Oh, come on! There's like a missing iron in
Objection!
it! I disagree. This toolkit contained a knife. And what proof do you have of that? Don't tell me your eye for art is failing you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You are the last person in the world who should be criticizing my aesthetic sense. Hey, Mr. Wright wanted to be an artist, okay? No, he's simply watching out for your ocular health. Please proceed, Mr. Wright. Notice that the handles of each of these tools have a sort of design on them. Ah, I see that they do. But what significance does that have? It's clear that one of the tools is missing from this kit. If we arrange the tools into a specific pattern? Ooh, what was that? We might be able to tell which part of the overall design is missing. Is that the theory your pitiful sense of aesthetics helped you come up with? Edgeworth, just let it go, man. Show the court then, if you would. What pattern or design would we see if we were to rearrange the tools? Where's that damn book? Here we go. Robots with hearts.
Take that!
And what design is this supposed to represent? The GAXA logo, Your Honor. It's in all of the Space Center's documents and pamphlets. As you're aware, GAXA is the program that operates the Cosmos Space Center.
Look at how brightly the Gaxa logo shines in the sunlight above the entranceway. I really dig the stars and rocket motif it's got going.
Gaxa, huh? Isn't that the new name of the Federal Space R&D program? Ah, I think I see it now, but... Yes, with just the tool shown in this photo. The red A part of the logo is missing. And this is where the murder weapon from Terran's case comes into play. If we were to place a utility knife in the open slot, it would complete the Gaxa logo. Oh, so it would. Then that means... Admit it, Mr. Edgeworth. My aesthetic sense is keener than yours, and while you're at it, admit that the weapon Miss Sykes used could have been this one. Ugh! How do you make that sound? Order! Order in the court! Miss Sykes confessed to having a memory of stabbing the victim. Admittedly, Miss Sykes most likely did stab someone using the utility knife. However, the weapon used to kill Dr. Sykes was the katana. Therefore, the act of stabbing that Miss Sykes remembers couldn't be that of Dr. Sykes. Very well. Let's suppose for a moment that Miss Sykes did use the utility knife. Tell me, how does that change anything? Come again? What if the katana was only being used as a decoy to conceal the true murder weapon? What if the real weapon that took the victim's life was the utility knife? Don't be ridiculous, or are you changing the premise of your entire argument? I'm merely offering a hypothetical situation derived from your logic. Miss Sykes could have put blood on the katana to make it look like the murder weapon, and then conceal the knife on her personage until Blackwell carried her away. That does clear up the contradiction between Miss Sykes' memories and the evidence. If, in fact, the murder weapon is a utility knife, then fate has dealt you a cruel hand. For you have just proven the knife's existence to the rest of us with your own logic.
Objection!
The prosecution is attempting to lead the court!
Objection!
You're the one attempting to lead the court, Mr. Wright, by forcing us to forget the facts of this case. Need I remind you that there were only 2 people in the lab at the time of the murder, and that the defendant herself recalls stabbing someone with her own hands? No. It matters not whether the murder weapon was a katana or a utility knife, as long as we know the victim and the defendant were the only ones there. You cannot escape the fact that it was Athena Sykes who killed her own mother. I don't believe it. Why? Why does this keep happening? Every time I find the contradiction, it vanishes and the suspicion keeps coming back. It's almost as if... Now you're finally starting to get it. Your contradictions keep vanishing because the charge is true, and the suspicions keep coming back to the defendant because that's where it belongs. Phoenix Wright, when will you open your eyes and accept the truth? Well, shit. Oh no, this sprite or this model thingy. Things are bad when this happens. I don't want to believe it. It can't be true. But what if... Mr. Wright, you fought a good fight. I think you've done all you can do. No, man, this is a Phoenix Wright. We can't let it end like this. Is giving up really the only option? No, snap out of it, Phoenix. What's the matter with you giving in to doubt? I can't look back. Forward is the only way to go. No, Your Honor, not yet. It isn't over yet. Right. I can't lose sight of what's important. I believe in Athena, and I'll always believe in her, to the very end. A defense lawyer never gives up on his clients. I have to pick myself up and stand firm. Make that brain of yours work, Phoenix. If I don't see a way, I'll just have to go back and look for one. Time to rethink this case, thoroughly. I concede the fact that Athena must have stabbed someone with the utility knife. This must have been what Ponko witnessed as Athena's hug. Prosecutor Blackwell didn't see the knife at the scene. This means that someone must have removed it from the lab before he arrived. Who could have taken the utility knife from the lab? Someone else. There was a third person at the scene. If I trusted Athena, then I have to conclude that there was a third person at the scene. But according to Ponko's testimony, Athena and her mother were the only two there. So then, how did this third person manage to escape Ponko's detection? I know! This person used to fool Ponko's facial recognition feature by covering... their own face. The person hid their face! But wait a minute, Ponko has a heartbeat detection system too. Even if they cover their own face, Ponko would have still detected their presence. She wouldn't have been able to tell who they were. Wait, that's it! The culprit could have covered their face and posed as which person to avoid detection. Meta Sykes! If the culprit posed as the victim, that would explain why Ponko thought only she and Athena were there. All they had to do was take advantage of Ponko's basic recognition features. The culprit used this in order to pose as the victim. Her jacket. The culprit could have posed as the victim by wearing her jacket with the ID tag on it. But that still leaves the heartbeat detection system. How did the culprit get around that? It wouldn't have worked if Ponko could detect the real Dr. Sykes' heartbeat too. So does it mean that the real Dr. Syke was already dead by that time? If that's the case, then who did Athena stab? The real culprit. Yay! We solved the puzzle! 100 precarats for me. That's it! The person Athena stabbed wasn't Dr. Sykes. It was the person who murdered her and then pretended to be her. The real culprit. Now that Mr. Wright has finally finished thinking, let us bring this to a swift end. Please give us your verdict, Your Honor, so that we can continue on to hostage negotiations. You are absolutely right, Prosecutor Edgeworth. I hereby...
Objection!
No! I didn't say I was finished. I was only pausing for a second. Because I realized something so shocking I had to take a break to digest it. But now, I know for a fact that Miss Sykes is innocent.
But Ponko saw me! She witnessed the moment of the crime!
Yes, Ponko did witness something. She saw the hug. In other words, the moment you used the utility knife. But the person you stabbed wasn't your mother. What are you saying, Mr. Wright? The answer is simple. The person Miss Sykes stabbed was a third person posing as Dr. Sykes. What?
Objection!
Do you really expect us to swallow that, Mr. Wright? According to the robot's statement, there was no third person there. Did you really think I wouldn't see through your ludicrous grab for time?
Objection!
After all we've been through, Mr. Edgeworth, I'm disappointed. Don't you know by now that this smile of mine means I have absolute confidence? Ha! You make that pose all the time, regardless of the facts. Ponko's strange malfunction.
Mr. Terran, you look pale. Shall I help you to the sick bay?
Mr. Terran? But that's Apollo you're talking to. Oh, this hunk of junk here is mistaking Apollo for Clay. Maybe Apollo's possessed by Clay's ghost. That was another case of mistaken identity caused by the jacket ID tag. All because Ponko couldn't read Apollo's facial features due to that eye patch. Like Mr. Edgeworth said, a mask could nullify the robot's facial recognition, and then all the person would have to do is wear a jacket with the victim's ID tag to pose as her.
Objection!
Of all the ridiculous theories, what good would a silly disguise like that do? Have you forgotten that the robot also has a heartbeat detection system? If there was a third person at the scene, the robot would have detected them. There's a loop around there. I'm sorry, Mr. Edgeworth, but that doesn't count for much, I'm afraid. Because, by that time, Dr. Sykes' heart had already stopped beating. What? So does that mean... Yes, Your Honor. The person Miss Sykes stabbed. This third person who was posing as Dr. Sykes is her mother's real killer. But that's... impossible! Impossible! I'm scaring my dogs.
A mask? The person I stabbed was wearing a mask?
Order! Order in the court! Miss Sykes, do you have... did you say something?
A mask? Yes. I remember
Athena! What is it?
I remember a man with a mask. How could he... What did he do to my mother? My head!
Miss Sykes, are you alright?
No!
The Black Cyclops! They're breaking! Hey! We did it! Something you guys should know, even though it's shown that this is the first time the Black Cyclops has been broken, if you think about it, Phoenix Wright has been breaking Cyclops since Game 1. Or Black Cyclops.
It's all coming back to me.
And I missed that. I couldn't do anything! I think we can actually stop here. If it'll let me stop. They're gone. The Black Cyclops are finally gone. Yay! We solved one issue! So, yeah, wow, okay, 32 minutes in. I guess that's a good spot to stop, right? Alright, we're gonna continue on with this case in the next video and find out who the real culprit is, hopefully. Laters!